Totally good. So a few rules for today and a few things to know. One is I'm always unscripted. My job is to teach you that there's safety in being yourself in the moment and just speaking your truth without filtering. And that's what I do. So I'm just here to live as an example for that. And a lot of what we're going to do today is to show you how I got here and how to create it for yourself. And also, you learn how to turn it on and off, which I do. The rules for today are basically do not hold on to your questions. If I say something that doesn't make sense to you or it's confusing or just makes you flustered, raise your hand, stand up, do whatever you need to do to get my attention, and don't let me continue. Because when you have a question, you'll tend to think about the question rather than hearing what's happening up front. So ask your questions.
I've got a question.
Oh, yeah. You're the first gold star.
Thank you. Thank you. Is this the sort of day where it'd be good to take notes?
You can if you like. However, if you take notes while you're taking the note, you're going to miss the next thing I'm saying, maybe. Yeah. So it's best to just take it in. If you have a hard time taking things in, write them down. I don't know. I mean, it's if I say something and then you forget what I said, don't check your notes. Just raise your hand and ask to repeat it. Okay, the other rule is, and everybody's going to break it, I'm going to tell you anyway, don't ask questions on break. Every time I take a break, someone comes up and says, hey, and asks me the best question of the day. And I'm like, why aren't you asking? Everybody's listening. So, the question that you hold on to, if you want to ask me personally on the break, if you have to do that, it's okay. I'm not going to berate you. But really, that question is the one that should be asking you. And it's the questions that we think are stupid that other people aren't going to want to hear. I guarantee you it's the question everybody wants to hear. And I know that because when I was in my teacher's class and he set these rules too. And so when I had a dumb question, I tested it. I was like, I had a really dumb question and everybody in the room was like, I had the same question. Thank you so much for asking. And that typically happens. So we good with the rules? That's literally all the rules. If you have to go to the loo or get fresh air or go to the kitchen for tea or water, you do not have to stop the group and announce what you're doing or ask permission. Just do what you want to do. We will take a break. So if you'd like to wait for a break, great, then you won't miss anything. My story started when I was born. I was born with a heart murmur. And then I found out about it when I was 3. I was told that I had a heart murmur and I had to take exercise kind of easy until my heart murmur healed itself. When I was 4, I was told, well, maybe your heart murmur will go away next year. And then when I was 5, I was told, well, maybe next year your heart murmur will go away. And every year I'd get it checked, and it was always there. And the heart murmur is essentially a hole in the heart where when the blood pumps in, some of it gets stuck and goes into an eddy, never actually leaves. And the danger of a heart murmur is that if ever get an infection in my blood, and then it gets up to the heart, it'll get stuck in that eddy, and then the heart gets infected and then you die. All right, so when I was 12, I was told, well, your heart murmur didn't go away. And so I was told not to participate in sports. So in school, like when everybody had the physical education time, I would have to sit on the bench. Everybody ran around the field or played football or whatever they were doing. And then when I was 15, my cardiologist said, well, if you don't get an operation before you have your wisdom teeth pulled, you'll be dead. You'll be dead. You won't survive getting wisdom teeth pulled. You can't survive that much blood that's that close to your heart, that much infection. And I was like, wow, okay, 10 years. And so the cardiologist told me that, and he sent me out of his office. My mom went in, and when my mom came out a few minutes later, she said, you know what? Don't worry about what he said. Just ignore it. And that was it. Never talked about it again. So I got to sit stuck in my funk, like I'm dead in 10 years. So I totally changed my focus in life. I sort of gave up chasing girls. I gave up thinking about the car I might own one day or where I wanted to live and own a house, and put all of my attention into spiritual training and looking for teachers. First teacher I met was my best friend's au pair, who was a Wiccan, who taught me tried to teach me some neat things about astral projection. And then I found out she was an Aleister Crowley And so I ran away. And I thought, whoa, that was close. I almost got sucked into something ugly. So my next foray into spiritual training was with some shaman, and I went down some poor paths and learned some things. But then I found a teacher, a body language teacher in 1989. And Patrick was born left brain dead. He was born unable to speak, unable to understand language, and basically no intellect. He told me that he understood everything through body sensations. So he would look at somebody and with empathy he'd say, oh, she's sad. Or, oh, this person really likes me, they're a friend. Or this person's pretending to like me, stay away from them. He could just feel everything that was going on with somebody. Mm-hmm. That's how he got along in life. He didn't speak. His mother thought he was like too far on the spectrum kind of thing. And maybe didn't give him much respect. When he was 5, his older brother fractured his arm in a skateboarding accident. Had a break in several places. Patrick said he looked at his brother's arm and he could see where it was off and he could see that his brother was in pain. So he grabbed his brother's wrist and twisted it and reset his brother's bones. Mm-hmm. His mother saw it and freaked out. Got him in the car and sped to the doctor. The doctor x-rayed Paul's arm and said, it's been set perfectly. There's something I can do. And so his mom basically melted, realized that her son was a healer. And so he grew up on a Native American reservation in New Mexico. And starting then, every weekend, she would drive him around on the reservation to do healings at people's houses. And, he said he would show up at someone's house and he could tell, oh, their liver, there's something wrong with their liver. So he would push on it and, they would gurgle and they'd feel better and then he's done. Mm-hmm. And that went on for 4 years of him learning how to shift people's body language. And then when he was about 9, he figured out how to jumpstart his intellect. So he's able to kick in his left brain and he started speaking at age 9. Mm-hmm. By the time I met him, when he was 36, he was doing what I'm doing today. But he was stunted in his intellect. So he didn't have quite the vocabulary or the ability to express himself very well. And what Patrick would do is he would bring somebody up to the front of the room and he would write their history on the board behind them while they weren't looking. And just by reading their body, we'd say, oh, you've got 2 brothers, 2 sisters, there's a 7-year age difference between your parents, you've been fired twice, you've had 3 operations, and he would just go down a long list and melt people to be like, what? How did you know that? And they thought it was magic and crazy. So he stopped doing that after a while. And he slowed it down and would just pick 1 or 2 things to tell people about themselves. And then, before the people would get all upset that he saw it, he would show them how to release it from their body. That's what we're going to do today. Patrick, he really appeared magical. And most of the people who went to his classes thought he was magic and actually didn't believe his explanations for what he was doing. And I didn't either. But I knew there was an explanation somewhere, so I took a lot of time to figure out what was really going on. And I had spent a lot of time in other modalities and other studies, so I had some idea of what could be happening. And I started to figure it out. So I'd be at his workshops, and this is after a couple of years. He'd announce, break time. And then not everybody, but a lot of people would come circle around me and ask me, what happened? Can you please explain what Patrick just taught us? And then I would explain, and it would be okay. So after a few times, Patrick saw me doing that, took me aside and said, okay, you got to figure this out and you got to teach it because you're smarter than I am and you'll be able to deliver better than I can. So, I signed up. And that was in 1996. And I didn't get to a place where I was comfortable doing the work until, it was a solid decade. And it wasn't until was a few years after that I started to realize what I was really doing and how people's bodies work and how to undo it and how to teach this too. Basically, what Patrick was doing and what I finally figured out he was doing is that he was reversing the way that we trap ourselves. And what I mean by that is that when something has happened, especially when we're young, infants or toddlers, when something happened that we didn't want to feel, either physical pain, emotional pain, or just even frustration, confusion, that feeling that didn't feel good and nobody taught us what to do with it. So the feeling that we didn't want to feel, we psychically pushed away. It's like, get this feeling away from me, I don't want to feel this. And when we do that, we take the feeling out of time and we put it into this timeless place where now the body thinks it's perpetually happening. It feels good because you're not feeling that pain anymore, but it's in the background. And so what Patrick figured out how to do was to find that thing spinning in a timeless place, bring it back into time so that the body can say, oh, that's not happening anymore, and just drop it. Mm-hmm. Because that's essentially what we've all done. Anytime something happened to us that we didn't like, we psychically push away the body sensation or the feeling or the emotion that we don't like, don't want to feel. We psychically push it away, and then we pull back and we pretend like it never happened, or whatever it is we do. But what happens is that ends up being a program in the background, and that actually can run our life a little bit. So for me, the first session I had with Patrick, and I was shy around girls my whole life. So the first session I had with Patrick, I'm laying on the table and he walked around me a couple times and he took his finger, and as soon as I looked at his finger, he pushed on my solar plexus really hard. And when he did, he said, Brian, the first time you asked a girl out on a date, did she laugh in your face? And then the image of this girl, Kara, laughing in my face when I asked her to the movies, and I was like 11 years old or something, like, came up and I started to hold my breath. And before I could panic and get mad and push it away again, my body realized that it was an old memory and not happening anymore. And so it just dropped it. And it's just like, and all of a sudden I felt relaxation in my solar plexus and I felt a weight lifted. And I said, thank you. And I didn't know what had happened. I was like, well, that feels really good. And he's like, you're welcome. So when I got home that afternoon, I just kind of forgot that I even had a session because I was built for healings all the time. I was always out trying to find out new stuff. And my friends asked me to go to the bar. I'm like, okay, I'll get the bar, whatever. And I go there and I get a beer. I'm standing around. Pretty soon this woman starts talking to me. Another woman starts talking to me. And I was like 4 women competing for my attention. I'm kind of laughing, joking. And all of a sudden I realized I'm not shy anymore. I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was so freaked out that I wasn't shy that I had to leave. I wasn't used to it. You know, it wasn't familiar to not be shy. But that was the power of this work. When we, what happens is that when something happens that we don't like, and whatever it is, when we push away the feeling we don't like, it's like taking one end of a rubber band and pushing it way out. It creates tension in the body. The body has to hold this thing out here. What's really neat, and this is how it ties into intuition, is that the way we keep those things at bay is with our attention. So the attention that you have for right here, right now, some of it has been used, taken away, and is being used to hold those things down that you didn't like a long time ago. But what happens is when that thing comes back into your awareness and your body realizes that it has a timestamp, that it happened in 1972 or yesterday or 2 weeks ago, whatever it is, as long as it's not now, as soon as your body recognizes that it's not now, it drops it. Because your body only wants to deal with real things. Things that happened a long time ago that aren't happening anymore aren't real. Our imagination makes them real, or makes us think they're real, but they're not actually happening anymore. Once the body recognizes that, it just says, oh, I don't have to deal with this anymore. And it just drops it. This is the fastest way I know to resolve old issues and even new issues. Because new issues are basically old issues regurgitated. You're nodding yes. Have you heard this before?
No, I'm saying it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
perfect sense, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Any questions at all about anything? It makes enough sense that there's no questions. Yes.
I'd just like to say something.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased that you explained how the hole in the arm worked. Because when I was like 4 years old, I had a young brother. They said he was a blue baby and he had a hole in his heart. But he only lived 10 days.
Oh, wow.
So I never understood. And so,
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's about infections, absolutely. Yeah. Loss. I'm sorry to go on. Is that an okay thing to say? I never know what to say to people when I hear about loss. Yeah, and I think, I mean, I had a lot of things happen to me through my life that were crazy, and most of them have been resolved simply by pointing out to my body, those things aren't happening anymore. That's it. Now, the amazing thing that happens when the body recognizes that old event isn't happening anymore, all that attention that we use to hold that memory at bay or those feelings at bay gets returned for a use right here, right now. And it literally feels like our blinders open up. You can literally feel like you're noticing more information. That's the reward for him. You notice more information. And the reason that has value is that we always make the best possible choice for ourselves based on the information we have. The more information we have, the better choices we make. Now, we all have this crazy thing where we get new information that makes our old choices look wrong. I can't believe I went to that school or dated that guy or whatever. But back then, they were the perfect choices for us. Now we have new information. If our old choices look wrong, that means that we've grown. That's a sign of personal growth. Make sense? Okay. So there's a big picture here. The big picture is about receiving more information. And the fun part is that this also opens us up to receiving more information via intuition. Because it's those traumas that we carry, those stresses we carry that make us feel separate from the rest of the world, those things we don't want to tell people about ourselves, actually disconnect us from the world. And when those drop away, your connection to the world rekindles. And so it's not that you feel connected to that thing over there, it's that you feel a unity with that thing over there. You recognize, oh, we're all in the same room, right? We're all like connected in some way. And that feeling of connection opens up the avenues for intuitive information. Does that make sense mathematically, even if you haven't experienced it yet? Okay. Any questions about anything? How you doing, Rick? Did I miss anything? Is there anything I should add? He's one of my interns. He's trying to keep me honest today.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good. So we have a big day today, and the basic plan is to explain to you how this works. And then everybody's,
Yeah, just make your comment. First.
Yeah.
So I one reason or another, I went to see a counsellor some time ago, and she told me about internal family systems, and that's a lot of that is about sort of burying stuff and keeping it under wraps.
Mhm.
And they give all different names to the bits of you that do this or that and the other. And I got halfway through the big
big book.
the book, and then I thought, I don't need to read that anymore. But yeah, it sort of resonates with that, and you know, that's from what would you call more mainstream field, I suppose. But they're trying to get to a similar thing, I think.
They are. I just there's a reason it's very difficult. It was very difficult to figure all this out. Patrick figured it out because he had no intellect. The problem is that our intellect gets in the way of understanding what's happening with the intellect. It really does. Yes.
Actually, I had some counselors, drawn a lot of lessons with my dad and stuff. And I found, for me, when I did some counselling, I found it very disempowering.
Yeah.
I didn't find that it was kind of taking away my kind of self-belief and not connecting with when I say the real me, that's just a bit rude, but yeah, the sort of part of me which you recognise as you.
Yeah.
And so I have a kind of thing now. I look at I've done the YBNL as well, so I like NLP personally. But a lot of counselling, I find it quite disempowering to keep labelling people and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah, I don't feel any of that. I don't believe in any of that. And I think it's actually,
my feeling.
it can be harmful. I believe.
Yeah.
You know, Patrick would write the word therapist on the board and then put a line between the E and the R, right? Rapists, because they're making you talk about things you don't want to talk about, diving into things you know, it can be. The problem with trauma is that when you think about it again, if it doesn't get released, it becomes another traumatic event. And so if you go to a therapist who just brings up old stuff and never lets it go, it just makes it worse.
Yeah, I mean, you take the words out of my mouth. That's exactly the way I felt.
Yeah.
You know, I stopped it in the end. I said, can we please stop this session? Because you're reliving trauma with me. And she actually, bless her, I'm sure her heart was in the right place, but she was making me feel worse. And she actually came out as quite a depressive person herself. The whole thing was like a really disenfranchising kind of experience. So I stopped it after that session.
Yes. I believe therapy is disempowering, or, can be. I don't know. I'm sure there's good therapists out there who do good stuff, but a lot of them I've met on this very unimpressed. So,
Can I
yeah,
Yeah, I was just gonna focus on even that emotional stuff from way back. and
Sure.
all that.
sure.
I work with young people and children that have a lot of that on
Uh-huh.
foster care. So, we get told that they're hardwired in that way, and that, it's hard to do that. I mean, you can, but it's a bit like what you're
That's just a
saying.
belief, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna show you the easy way to unwire it. Doesn't mean you'll learn how to unwire it for your children, but you will. The idea that it's hard is kind of what makes it hard. The part of the problem is that most people who go into therapy have issues themselves. They're trying to work out their own issues. That's why they went to school for therapy. So there's a little bit of a disconnect to begin with. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's just,
because we attend therapy every week and have been in 3 years.
Mhm.
So I'm just wondering from what you're sharing now, is that detrimental maybe to your approach that you're going to be sharing today?
yeah, it just depends on the style of therapy or whatever. Like what I do, I wouldn't work on a child who was under 7, because what I do happens very quickly. I've had, so someone's going to get to be the first volunteer. But I've had people who, years ago when I started doing this and started doing groups, I think a volunteer, they, come on up and show off what I do. And I was able to extract an issue this guy had it was under 5 minutes. And the next day, I was living in a hot spring, so I was in a resort. And the next day, he came running across the quad. Brian, I slept last night. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, no, you don't understand. I've been in therapy for 10 years since I don't sleep. And I slept last night. And he was like ready to get on his knees and kiss my feet. Oh, cool, dude. But that it really does. We can move so much that it can be ungrounding. And the difference between what I do and what Patrick does is like, one, Patrick didn't explain what he was doing. He didn't understand how it worked. He didn't have a model for how it worked. He would just, the way he would explain it, he would just after class, I said, that was smoke and mirrors. He's magic. He would work on any muscle in the body. What I've discovered is that the things we're ready to let go of are in our shoulders. When we're stressed out, when something's bothering us, the shoulders go up. And Patrick, when he worked on my solar plexus, I told you that story. Well, I left the session, got in my car, and I couldn't drive. I sat there and held the wheel, and I went to put the key in, and I was like, nope. I held the wheel, and I was like, holy crap. I'm the car. I'm the neighborhood. I'm driving. I'm not a noun, I'm a verb. And I sat there for 20 minutes until I got grounded and was able to drive. Literally, I felt so expanded, walking like it was just cosmic. But that, Patrick would work on somebody's ankle down here and say, oh, did your teacher, kick you in 3rd grade or something? And then people were like, wow, my leg feels better. But then they feel like, wait, where am I? Because it really does change our perception of the world. So I really, unless someone's like dying or in a serious crisis, I only work on the shoulders, because when we let stuff go out of our shoulders, we still feel normal. We still feel grounded, because that stuff's ready to be let go of. And it's really easy. My sessions are typically only 10 minutes long, sometimes 5. I had a session that was 30 seconds. Now, I charge $200 for a session in California. And this woman was happy that the session was over in 30 seconds because she's like, what? I'm like, why are you here? She's like, not my stomach. Gets on the table. I put my hand on her belly and I said, who's George? And her face just went, and George was her ex-boyfriend who was harassing her, trying to get back together, kind of stalking her. Oh, she's from Sweden. So he's like calling her from Sweden, trying to get back together with her. And it's making her body all tense, but she didn't like it, you know? But when she realized it was George causing tension in her body, it all went away. And she totally let him go. It was the fastest $200 ever made in her life. But, you know, if she had gone to a therapist, she could have spent weeks trying to figure it out. So, when, you know, this work has two parts to it. So my favorite thing to do is actually to teach a class I call the play shop, because that explains how and why our bodies do that. Because most of the time, this pushing away the feeling you don't like, it's not even conscious. It's involuntary. Something happens you don't like, you automatically want to push it away. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason for that. That's the piece that took Patrick years to drill into my head, get me to figure it out. And once you learn that in the play shop, when your body brings up an old stress or you get stressed out and you remember this little meditation that you learned in that class, the stress goes away and it teaches your body to discontinue pushing things away it doesn't like. And what ends up happening is that your body will no longer do that. When stress comes up, you just process it and then it's over. And that's the beautiful thing. You teach your body that if it processes stress in the moment, it's over quickly, and then you get on with your life and don't have to carry it around. So that's the real meaning of what I do. That's what my school's about. I do this song and dance and the healings or whatever you want to call it, the body language adjustments, to give myself credibility so that you know my class will work. Okay? So that meditation that you can learn in the play shop if you're doing my online school or come next Sunday to class and breathe, it will explain to you how and why this works, how and why your body automatically pushes things away, and it will unravel that. Now, that play shop took me 20 years to figure out, and I didn't realize how valuable it was. I just did what my teacher wanted me to do. And because he said, well, this helps with people's traumas. It helps us free us of our past so we can be ourselves in the moment. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to teach it. And then at the hot springs, there was a wildfire and it burned it down. Then my wife and I, my girlfriend at the time, lost everything. Lost 90% of what we own. And actually I had to drive out, trees on fire on both sides. And it was crazy. We drove out. And I didn't have a mile to get out of this box canyon and it was on fire. And I get out to the end, and there's Rose, she's crying. And so she follows me, and, you know, we get in our cars and we go like just 6 blocks away. I mean, like a quarter mile. Park our cars to look back and see where the fire is and watch the smoke. The fire had already come the entire mile I had driven. So if I had just waited 2 or 3 minutes before leaving, I would have been like fire behind me trying to escape it. It was like 80-mile-an-hour winds, and it was crazy. That was the Valley Fire in 2015. When we went to FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Management Agency, they came to town and help people out, help you with rent, help you get your life back together. We go in there and we're like, yeah, we lost our house. And, you know, we need some money to get a good place to live. You know, we need some clothes, we have clothes, food, we got money. And they're like, are you sure you lost your house? We're like, yeah. They're like, what's your address? We'll give them the address. Give me your ID. Give them our IDs. They like disappear. They go talk to the FBI. Like, what's going on? We look around the room, and this is a big room. It's like the library's been closed down for FEMA. We look around the room, and everybody's sad. People are crying. People are despondent. They're just like debilitated. It's like the end of the world. And Rose and I are just like, start life again. What's going on? And we realized, oh my gosh, everybody's sad and we're not. That's why they don't believe us. Oh man. The next time we went, we're like, okay, we sat in the car for a couple minutes, okay, put our set face off. But what we realized, we're like, wow, our bodies are carrying trauma. We're not stressed about a fire that almost killed us. I mean, it was very stressful when it happened, but it's gone. We just looked at each other, kind of laughed, like, wow, this is a really good workshop. Like, this is really cool. So my wife's an amazing manifester. If she puts her mind to something, it shows up. But she's like, I'm going to find us a free place to live. And she opens up Craigslist. Do you have that here? No. Okay. So Craigslist, it's like an online classifieds. She opens it up, looks for housing. The first ad that pops up says free rental for fire survivors. So she calls the guy, and the guy's like, I just posted an ad 15 seconds ago. It's so fast. But he gave us a place to live for 3 months for free, but it was at the end of a box canyon. And guess what? We had a fire in 2017, and that was scary because the phone lines went out in the middle of the night. We didn't know why. So I wake up in the morning and I'm in massage school. So I got to wake up early, go to massage school, and pack my car, and there's smoke coming up from down the hill. I'm like, oh boy. Okay. I drive down, the smoke gets thicker, and pretty soon I'm in the neighborhood. Houses are on fire, trees are on fire, and I'm thinking people are still home. So I'm honking, trying to wake people up, get out of their house, you know. And Rose is following me, and she honks at me finally, and she's like, we got to go back up. So our cat is up in the cat, right? Not only that, but we have neighbors who are sleeping because they were partying all night. And we're like, oh no, we have to wake them up. So we drive back to the fire, back a mile up the hill, wake up my neighbors, pack a few things in the car, and get back down the hill with our cat. And when we do, of course, the fire is worse. I had to drive by a propane tank that was so hot that the paint was bubbling. I was like, I'm looking at this thing while I drive by, like, please don't smoke, please don't smoke, please don't smoke. But we went to my friend Leslie's house. She said we could stay in her guest room. So we go to her house and like unload the car. And that night I went to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, I looked out the window and I saw a tree I didn't recognize. I'm like, what's that tree? Oh, at Leslie's house, there was a fire. Okay. Went back to sleep. No stress.
No.
And that day we were like, hey, we have gold here. Like, we have no stress from this trauma again. We know it works. That's the beautiful part of this work, is that we're reprogramming our internal body language to not push away things we don't like. So when stress shows up, you just process it, handle it, and then it's over. And it's way easier, I guarantee, than pushing things away. So that's another story about that happened. That's how I discovered that this work I've been doing in my life was actually very valuable, and that I should be teaching it to the world. Here I am today. Any questions about that, or comments, or? No. Yes.
Can I say, so basically with my interpretation of what you've just said
Mhm.
is that you can move out sort of wrapped away traumas that have happened in our lives like today, what's happened. But then that could assist us in future with being able to do that ourselves, or would that be a follow-on from today?
So I don't consider this healing. I consider it body language retraining. So when you get on the table and you feel what it's like to have an old memory come back in your body, let it go and reclaim that energy, you'll feel it in your body when it happens. And you'll start to recognize how it works after you have a few sessions. I tell people that it takes about 10 sessions, and 10 is really the maximum I do on anybody, 10 sessions to get how it feels, so that when your body gets tight and you feel your shoulder get tight, you're able to touch it and recognize what the picture is, and then it relaxes very quickly. You can learn to do the process yourself. That it probably takes 7 sessions to learn that. That's why I call this training. If you do the play shop, you don't really ever have to do table training, maybe, because you understand why your body does that and you unravel it in a slightly different way. So this is like the corporal way, like, feel it in your body way to do it. And the play shop is more intellectual. So it's like you have a better understanding of how and why your body has done that to begin with. So there's a reason our bodies and we store traumas. There's a reason. It's not hardware. It's software. It's software that we programmed when we were infants. Because we didn't know it. First time that we had something we didn't want to feel, we pushed it away and we just told ourselves that's what we had to do with things we didn't want to feel. And that program stuck. It's been so long that we don't know how to unravel it anymore, but well, that's what I figured out. After 30 years. Yes, Rick? And then sorry.
Just to add that when you do the online stuff, which is the other way of doing this, it's still a visceral feeling when you let go of stuff. You will still feel it. It's not like just an intellectual process. It's learning to understand the process and then applying the exercises, including the meditation that Brian worked, and you will still feel.
Oh yeah, you still feel it leave. You still feel the relaxation and everything, but it's a little bit different than having somebody touch your body. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what have you done with, I've got this whole big argument with this genetic thing that could be from, I mean, my mum's got it, has got it, my mum with it. So I don't know if it's come into my life from like a sort of like epigenetic thing, you know, when it's like you've got the potential of having it, and then my actual life has kind of made it manifest, or if I was always going to get it, or who knows what. But have you done things like that and successfully got rid of things like that?
I know that family patterns can get passed on, usually because, you know, a traumatized parent will then push it on their children unconsciously, which I caught myself doing to my daughter, you know, like it does happen. If you break your leg, this isn't gonna heal your leg. But if you broke your leg 2 years ago and your leg still hurts, this will get rid of that pain. Because it's not real anymore. Your leg's healed, right? That's kind of what this work does. This stuff works on what has already passed, what's over.
Yeah.
And I get that those things don't feel like they're over. But if in time they are actually over, this works.
Yeah.
As far as genetic things, the body language can be a large component of anything. You know, if we have a stuck trauma, it can cause all sorts of disease, it can cause all sorts of tension, all sorts of problems. But there are other ways to get diseases and infections and problems that don't have to do with suppressing trauma.
Yeah.
So, you know, this isn't the fix all for everything. This is the fix all for things that aren't happening.
Yeah.
So we can find out.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just a quick question.
Yeah.
So what are we actually going to be doing today? Are you gonna like? You said there's two processes: the corporal and there's the play.
The play shop, I call it.
Play shop. I couldn't think of the. So are you going to show us those today, or is that somebody going to mention it, or how does it work?
Well, it's I have it online and I'm teaching it Sunday. So you know, if you join the online school, you can learn it online. Next time I'm here, you can confirm you got it right or whatever.
Yeah.
Or you can learn it this week and then come to class on Sunday and figure it out. You can learn it online. The issue for me is that my wife and I are having our second child due April 8th. So I may not be able to come back for a while. But if I come back as soon as I can, so I don't know how long it'll be. Yes.
Is it more on Simon okay? On the April the 8th.
Yes, there is. But we're out of the, right, we're out of the, we won't see it when we live. I'm from Northern California. I think this eclipse is going to the south or the southeast.
I wasn't through Texas. Okay.
Yeah, through Texas or so.
Do you want you to be in the dark?
Dark's not so bad. The name that came to me the other day is Persephone. The goddess of spring in the underworld. So we don't know if we're having a boy or a girl, but when that name came to me, I was like, oh, maybe we're having a girl. Oh, fun. Or that's the thing about intuition. That name could have came to me for some other reason. Maybe the goddess of the underworld walked by me on the sidewalk. And the name popped in my head. I have no idea. You get to find out. Did that answer your question? So there's just the play shop. When I was teaching it a few years ago, it was a 2-day class. You get a bunch of information that you have to sleep on, and then the next day, confirmation of get it working. I've simplified it. I've kind of taken out some things that weren't necessary and I've shortened it. It's now an hour and a half of video. It's about an hour's worth of exercises. So you could easily do it online this week if you wanted to actually learn that and then come to class and be on Sunday. But, for today, the plan is that everybody here gets a chance to be on the table to experience this. That's what we're here for, is stress relief, right? So my job is to figure out what stress your body's holding. And it's not the stress that you think it is. The stress that you think about is not as strong as the stress you're unaware of. My job is to find the stress that you're unaware of. The stress that's below the one that you're aware of. And then we'll get rid of that. The one you are aware of tends to also disappear. Which is way fun. The reason we're all doing this in a group like this and not privately is that if you pay attention, if you have any empathy skills at all, if you just tune in to whoever's on the table and what's going on, you can feel the same relief in your body that they're feeling, or at least feel an analog of it. So if someone feels relief at getting rid of this tension they've had because they hate their mom or used to hate their mom, and you've had issues with your mom too, when they heal, you will also feel relief. You have a similar thing going on. So you can learn from every session today, whether you're on the table or not. It's just about feeling, to get the most out of today, feel your body. And by feel your body, I mean, notice how the room feels to you right now. Just feel the room. Just notice how your body feels in the room. It's going to shift today. It's going to shift a lot. Are we all friends here? Anybody here not friends? How about we take a 5-minute break? Tea, coffee,
I just got one more
Sure,
question.
sure.
So if you release whatever it is with the shoulders to down,
Yeah.
will that not just let another thing come up and up the shoulders go again?
That's right. Well, what happens is when you empty out your shoulders, that also gives you, when you release stress that you're ready to let go, it's in your shoulders, that gives you an experience of relief. And it gives you a repetition of being in your power to let things go.
No.
And your body recognizes, oh, I can let this go, right? Your shoulders empty out. What happens is that thing you're holding in your spleen, that thing you're holding in your lower back or down here, your knee, it bubbles up. Your knee will feel better one day and your shoulder will be like this. That doesn't mean that the same issue has come back. It means an older issue has crept up to be let go. Now, if you've done a lot of work and you figure out, how to feel your body and watch the memory go by, you can heal yourself. My experience after just 3 sessions with Patrick, went to my friend's house. My friend said he wanted to open up a healing center in Philadelphia. And I said, Philadelphia doesn't deserve healing. And when I did, I felt my shoulders go up and I was like, wow, I can let go up here. No, we can open a healing center in Philly. Wow, sorry about that. I'm in charge on Philly, huh? But that's the thing. Once I recognized it, I was able to just draw it. But that's because I was able to do that because what welled up inside didn't feel good. I wanted to get revenge on Philly. And that feeling in my body, when I recognized it was tied to the tightness of my shoulders, my brain just put the 2 and 2 together. Like my shoulders dropped and the need for revenge went away, and I just felt better. I'm like, wow, this is really good work Patrick's doing. Wow, cool. Yeah. So, any more questions before break? Don't ask on break. All right, so 5 or 10 minutes, whatever we need to have a little and get some fresh air and no, we start once
No, I just. Is it okay?
Yeah.